My name is Kate Beck, and it's Katebeck.
All right. So the Senate, the background check legislation failed in the U.S. Senate today, almost on a party line vote. I think there are only 4 or 5 Republican senators that voted for it. What's your reaction?
It's sadness and disgust, and it's also outrage because it didn't fail by majority. 54 senators voted to pass it, but the way that our system is set up now, you have to have a supermajority. You have to have 60 to get anything passed. So in a democracy, we passed. It was 54 U.S. senators voted for it, but we have to have 60 now, which is a shame.
And that's sort of the point that I think President Obama and others have made, that you know, by doing this, the Senate was essentially going against what they perceive the majority opinion. I mean,
the statistics are that 90% of Americans support it, even if that's 70% or 80%. The vast majority of Americans are for sensible background checks. That's not taking anybody's gun away. That's just making sure that convicted felons, that mentally ill people, and that criminals don't have access to guns.
Were you expecting this result?
I was prepared for it. We all were. We know that this is going to be a marathon. It's changing a very long culture in America that the NRA has been the talking points. They've been the ones creating fear among people. They spread lies. They send emails out to their people that were coming after their guns. And the Supreme Court has ruled over and over again that there is the Second Amendment and that people have the right to bear arms. But it also says that it can be well regulated, and they've upheld that as well. But they use this as Obama's gun grabbing, they're going to come after your gun, they're going to take grandpa's hunting rifle, and they use this fear, and they trump up fundraising with it, and they trump up activisms, and they make people, go out and buy more guns, thinking that it's going to make them safer, when the statistics are that you're so much more likely to have an accident or injury or a suicide in your house by having a gun in it, that you're not any more safe. And if you use smart storage, it's going to be locked up. And so if somebody does invade your home, you're going to be like, wait a minute, let me go get the gun, let me get the bullets in another area of the house. It's not going to protect you. But people have this sense of feeling like they're safe, when the more likely thing is the angst-out teenager is going to get the gun when he breaks up with his girlfriend, or his girlfriend breaks up with him, and he's going to commit suicide in a short-term solution. That's much more likely than you stopping the burglar from breaking into the house.
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to change the shot slightly, so it gives them a little bit of variety. And do you think that the NRA or gun rights people are sort of winning the talking points war?
I think in the past they have, but I think it's changed. I think with the sheer number of catastrophes that we've had, starting with Columbine, and then Virginia Tech, and then in Washington, our police officers, the 4 officers shot. In Shoreline here, in my little suburban area, the teenage high school girl that was shot in a drive-by shooting, and her cousin, the Aurora killing, the Sandy Hook, the people that you're in your faith community in Wisconsin, and somebody comes in and starts shooting you up. It's nothing is safe anymore, and it's a form of terrorism, and we're all kind of realizing that if I can't send my 6-year-old to kindergarten without worrying, your talking points don't really matter. It's an inconvenience to do a background check. I have to have a background check to be the library aide at school. I have to have a background check to volunteer in my church. And for you to say, if you want to buy an AK-14, that it's an inconvenience to have a background check, that just doesn't hold water anymore when 20 beautiful, innocent children are killed and their 6 teachers. It's just when you're sitting in a movie theater and they open fire, it's an inconvenience to have a background check. And most of them are done in less than 3 minutes. I mean, it's the vast majority, and people are starting to realize, and the word is starting to get out. It's, I hadn't been paying attention, I'm ashamed to admit, until it was like drip, 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 you know, the things that I laid off, or listed off, and then all of a sudden, I can't drive by the school 5 blocks from my house without thinking about it. I go to my parent-teacher conference, and the teacher talks about being terrorized, you know, that she like went home and was reading about it, and it makes her nervous to do her job, and we aren't paying teachers enough to begin with, let alone having them fear for their life. I haven't been to a movie since Aurora, honestly, and I'm not a paranoid person, but it's like it just really makes you think twice before you do something. And I think that the moms are awake. I know that they are, at least. So I do think that something has changed in our collective consciousness, and I gotta protect myself from the government. I mean, that's just kind of wacky. We're a democracy. We protect ourselves from the government by voting. You know, that's how we elect our officials. And we don't fight each other. We don't shoot each other up. We go to the ballot box and we have civil conversations. And this whole protecting myself from I mean, it just, there are things when they're actually out there in the light of day, I think they stop making sense. And especially when you consider the mass shootings and the sheer volume. I mean, 30,000 Americans die by gunshot a year. 100,000 are shot and wounded, and we have to pay for the health cost of that and the recovery and everything else. And it's truly to the health crisis point for us. And there isn't a single person that I know of that hasn't been affected by it. I had a good friend that worked at the Jewish Federation. My partner's has had 2 siblings commit suicide. We're starting to all talk about the travesties that we've had, and once I think America empathizes with something, once we feel a camaraderie with each other, we're unstoppable. We're not gonna let it keep happening, and it's senseless. We don't need to be living in a society with AK-14s or AR-14s.
It's AK-47.
AK-47, yeah. AR-14s.
AR-15.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, that's okay. We know what you're talking about.
Yeah. But I'm also for hunting rights. You know, I lived in Montana, and it's important that, you know, they have the ability to shoot deer, and they eat the things that they shoot, and I think it's perfectly fine. I mean, I'm even for having an AK-47 at the shooting range, you know, and you check it out and you enjoy your sport and you have it there. But I just don't think that there's a place for it in our streets and in our schools and in our towns and our communities.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of hinted at it a little bit, in that initially, you know, you weren't paying much attention. It was this drip drip, and I mean, is that maybe the biggest thing that your side has to overcome? Is the sense of public outrage? Because you know, we always hear that Americans have a short attention span, and maybe we're, you know, becoming numbed to this sort of stuff.